Imagine waking up, getting out of bed, and the very first step you take feels like, well, like you're putting your full body weight directly onto a shard of glass.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Right. You haven't even made it to the coffee machine yet, and your body is just already screaming at you. And for a lot of people, I mean, that isn't some hypothetical nightmare. It's just Tuesday.
It's a brutal reality.
Oh.
We tend to, we take our feet completely for granted right up until the exact moment they just stop working.
We really do. Like, you expect your Wi-Fi router to connect, you expect your car to start, and you expect your feet to carry you. But we're looking at some staggering numbers today. Up to 75% of adults experience foot pain at some point in their lives.
75%. That's huge.
It's massive.
Uh,
That means if you're listening to this right now, there's a really high chance that the simple act of taking a step is or has been a literal pain for you.
And what's really troubling is how we culturally frame that pain.
Right?
We just write it off. We say, oh, it's just a normal part of getting older.
Right, or like the inevitable cost of working a long shift on a concrete floor.
Exactly. But when you actually look at the biomechanics, the actual science of it, it's very rarely just getting older. It's almost always a mechanical failure. And, mechanical failures can be fixed.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We are getting into the notoriously confusing world of custom orthotics today.
Oh, it is a maze out there.
Seriously. And to anchor this, we're diving into a stack of clinical materials from DFW Custom Orthotics. This is a clinic run by Michael L. Ashley. He's a board-certified pedorthist with over 20 years of experience in the field.
20 years is a lot of clinical data.
It really is. So we're going to use his practice and his clinical programs to really understand what's happening from the ground up. Literally.
It's the perfect lens for this because, the gap between what the general public thinks an orthotic is and what a true, actual clinical orthotic does is massive.
Yeah.
People are spending small fortunes on things that aren't actually helping them.
Right. So let's get straight into that. Because before we can talk about how to actually heal the foot pain, we need to understand why so many people are failing to find relief in the first place.
The retail trap?
Yes, the retail trap. You've probably seen these setups in a big box store or a pharmacy. You walk down the aisle and there's this big kiosk.
Oh, yeah, with the glowing screen.
Exactly. You take your shoes off, you step onto a pressure mat, and the screen lights up with this really impressive heat map of your feet.
It's incredibly compelling marketing, I'll give them that. It looks like a high-end medical diagnostic tool.
Yeah.
The screen shows you some red zones where you're putting a lot of pressure, some blue zones where you aren't.
Right. And then a computer algorithm just spits out a recommendation for a specific insole. It feels highly customized.
It feels customized, yeah.
But hold on, because I've stood on those mats. They really do look like something out of a NASA lab. I mean, how is a human being supposed to beat a digital sensor that's literally mapping the exact pressure points of my feet?
Well, it comes down to understanding what that sensor is actually measuring. A pressure mat measures exactly one thing, how your weight is distributed when you are standing completely still.
Oh, just standing there.
Right. It takes a static snapshot. But human life isn't static, right? You don't just stand like a statue all day. You walk, you run, you pivot, you climb stairs.
Yeah.
A static pressure mat cannot possibly diagnose a dynamic biomechanical issue.
Wow, okay, so it's totally missing the actual movement part.
Exactly. Think about it. When you take a step, your heel strikes the ground. Your weight rolls forward, your arch flexes, your toes push off. That is a dynamic process.
Right.
A kiosk cannot tell if your ankle violently rolls inward during that push-off phase. It's literally just matching your static footprint to a pre-manufactured, templated piece of foam sitting in a box on a shelf.
That completely reframes it. It's like, okay, it's like going to a tailor to get a custom suit, but instead of the tailor actually measuring your shoulders and your inseam and watching how you move, they just have you step on a digital scale.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah. Right. The scale says you weigh 180 pounds, so they just hand you a generic size large suit off the rack and charge you a premium for it.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, those retail insoles are mass-produced. They're made from low-grade foam or plastic. They offer, some generic arch support. But there's minimal structural correction.
And no real doctor is looking at it.
Exactly. The critical missing piece is that there is zero clinical review. No human expert is actually looking at your specific pathology.
And the cost is wild. I was reading the materials, and these kiosk systems can charge upwards of $800.
$800 for plastic,
$800 for a piece of templated plastic that wasn't actually built for your unique foot.
which is just astonishing when you contrast it with genuine clinical care.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the role of a board-certified pedorthist comes into play.
Great. Let's talk about what they actually do.
So a pedorthist specializes in using footwear and supportive devices to address conditions of the foot and the lower limbs. They don't just put you on a sensor and call it a day. They conduct a detailed biomechanical assessment.
Like watching you walk.
Yes, they perform dynamic gait and posture analysis. They watch how your body moves through space.
And when they actually make the orthotic, it's hand cast, right? They're taking actual physical foam impressions or using clinical 3D scans of your feet.
Yep. Then a clinician reviews that specific data, and the orthotic is built from scratch. It's layered with medical-grade materials, it's adjusted for your exact pressure points and whatever specific pain you're dealing with.
So it's an active medical intervention, not just a squishy cushion you slide into your sneaker.
Exactly. And here's the contrast that really stands out in the DFW custom orthotics materials. While those retail templated insoles are running people $800, this clinic prices their true hand-cast custom carbon fiber orthotics at just $375.
Wow, that's less than half the price for an actual medically reviewed device.
It really highlights their philosophy,
Yeah.
prioritizing a patient's mobility and dignity over these massive retail markups.
It really does. And we should probably talk about why that clinical intervention is so critical, because when we shift away from how these things are made and look at what they actually do for the body, the stakes get very high.
Oh, incredibly high.
So let's get into the clinical magic here. What is a piece of medical grade material actually doing to heal the body? Let's start with plantar fasciitis, because earlier I mentioned that feeling of stepping on glass first thing in the morning. That's the classic symptom, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So the plantar fascia is this thick, fibrous band of tissue. It runs across the entire bottom of your foot, connecting your heel bone to your toes.
Yeah.
It essentially acts like a bowstring that supports the arch of your foot. When that tissue is placed under too much stress, it gets inflamed. It actually starts tearing.
Yikes. So every time you take a step after resting, like when you wake up, you're stretching out this inflamed, damaged tissue.
Exactly. Which causes that agonizing stabbing pain in the heel. And what a clinical orthotic does is entirely different from a store-bought cushion. The source actually cites a 2018 study from the Journal of Foot and Ankle Research.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, and it proves that custom orthotics reduce plantar fasciitis pain more effectively than prefabricated insoles. And the why is the important part here.
Because it fixes the structure.
Right. The custom orthotic physically corrects the biomechanical flaw, like an arch that collapses too much, for example, and redistributes the mechanical load. It literally stops the fascia from overstretching in the first place, which allows the tissue to actually heal.
So it's fixing the root cause instead of just masking the symptom. That makes so much sense. But while plantar fasciitis is incredibly painful, the materials dive into something where the stakes are quite literally life-altering, and that's diabetic foot care.
Yeah, for individuals with type 1 and type 2 diabetes, the risks flagged here are frankly terrifying.
They really are. Diabetes fundamentally changes the environment of the foot, doesn't it?
It does. One of the primary dangers is neuropathy, which is severe numbness and tingling. Over time, high blood sugar damages the nerves in your extremities, and you just lose sensation.
Meaning, you could get a blister from a tight shoe or step on something sharp, and you literally wouldn't feel it.
You wouldn't feel a thing. And because diabetes also heavily restricts blood flow to the feet, that small blister, it doesn't heal. It can very quickly develop into a severe deep foot ulcer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, without proper blood flow and nerve sensation, these ulcers are actually the leading cause of partial amputations of toes or the forefoot.
The clinic's materials also mention something called Charcot foot. They describe it as collapsing arches, which just sounds awful.
Charcot foot is a devastating complication. Because of that severe nerve damage we just talked about, a diabetic patient might sustain microfractures in the bones of their foot.
But they can't feel it.
Exactly. Because they can't feel the pain of a broken bone, they just keep walking on it. The repetitive trauma eventually causes the weakened bones to completely break and the joints to shift or collapse.
Yeah.
The entire structure of the foot just caves in on itself.
That is harrowing. So a proper medically reviewed custom orthotic acts as like a frontline defense here.
Oh, absolutely. It reduces localized pressure points so ulcers don't form, it accommodates any existing deformities, and it stabilizes the foot to protect against that kind of structural collapse. It is not just about comfort, it's about saving the limb.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more, because it's vital to recognize that the impact of a properly aligned foot doesn't just stop at the ankle, right?
Right.
The clinical data emphasizes that these orthotics have a profound full-body impact. They claim that by correcting gait imbalances at the ground level, they drastically reduce strain on the knees, the hips, and the lower back.
Yep, the full kinetic chain.
I have to admit, I've always been highly skeptical of that claim. It sounds a little like marketing speak to me. Like, can a piece of material inside my shoe really fix the lower back pain I get after a long day?
I get the skepticism, but it really comes down to that kinetic chain. The human body isn't just a collection of isolated parts. It's a linked system of joints and levers.
You know, while I was reading through this, I actually thought of an analogy that kind of made it click for me.
Oh, let's hear it.
Think about the foundation of a house. If a contractor pours the concrete foundation even just a couple of degrees at a tilt, you don't just end up with a slanted floor in the living room.
Right, the whole house suffers.
Exactly. Over time, the wooden framing gets stressed, the roof line shifts and starts to leak, and the windows crack. The problem at the very bottom destroys the structure at the very top.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. Let's apply that to human movement. Imagine you have a slight misalignment. Say, your arch collapses slightly inward every single time your foot hits the ground.
Yeah.
Because your foot rolls inward, it forces your knee to rotate inward to compensate.
And knees are hinges. They aren't supposed to rotate like that, right?
Right, so that unnatural internal knee rotation then pulls on your hip joint. Your hip tilts downward on one side, but your eyes need to stay level with the horizon, so your brain forces the muscles in your lower back to constantly fire and spasm just to keep your torso upright and straight.
Wow. And you take what, like 5, maybe 10,000 steps a day?
Easily. So that slight misalignment at your foundation forces your back muscles to aggressively overcompensate thousands of times a day. No wonder your lower back is screaming by 5 p.m. It's chronic, exhausting fatigue, and it's all originating from the floor.
Which is exactly why the clinic provides this incredible self-assessment quiz in their materials. It helps people identify these kinetic red flags before they turn into major injuries.
The quiz is really eye-opening.
It is, and the questions that they ask are just so specific. One of the big ones. Have you noticed uneven wear on your shoes?
That is the most undeniable physical evidence of a gait imbalance. Honestly, everyone listening should go look at their favorite pair of shoes right now.
Just flip them over.
Yeah. If the outside heel of your left shoe is worn completely down to the rubber, but the right shoe looks perfectly flat, your foundation is poured at a tilt. You are driving your body weight unevenly into the ground.
They also dig into how your foot pain behaves when you're active. They ask, is it a pain that hurts when you start moving but kind of warms up and fades? Or is it a pain that gets progressively worse and sharper the longer you run?
Right, differentiating between soft tissue and structural issues.
And they even ask if you experience a loss of balance or stability right at the end of a golf swing.
Ah, the golf swing metric. That is fascinating.
Why the golf swing specifically?
Well, a powerful golf swing requires an immense transfer of kinetic energy from the ground up, right through your hips and shoulders. If your feet are unstable or misaligned, they literally cannot provide a stable base to handle that rotational force.
So you just fall over at the end of the swing?
Basically, yeah. You'll lose your balance on the follow-through. It's a high-performance indicator of a foundational weakness.
That's wild. And the quiz is scored on a point system. If you score between 0 and 12, you're generally in good shape. But if you're hitting 37 points or higher, and especially if you have diabetic risk factors, you are in a high-risk category and need an immediate professional assessment.
It really forces you to stop ignoring the pain and evaluate what your body is trying to tell you.
It's a total wake-up call. And it brings us to a major historical hurdle in orthotics. For decades, if you scored high on a quiz like that and needed serious clinical correction, the solution was, well, miserable.
Oh yeah, the old orthopedic shoes.
All right, you'd wear these giant, heavy, incredibly clunky orthopedic shoes just to accommodate the massive, thick foam insoles.
Which nobody wants to do. You want to wear your normal shoes.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. That leads us directly to the technical revolution happening here, specifically the use of carbon fiber. Now, when I hear carbon fiber, my mind immediately goes to aerospace engineering or maybe $1 million Formula One race car.
Not a shoe insert.
Definitely not a shoe insert. It sounds like total overkill.
It does sound extreme at first glance. But when you break down the actual physics of human walking, Carbon fiber is practically the only material perfectly suited for this specific medical application.
Okay, the clinic's materials do list some major advantages. First, carbon fiber has a superior strength-to-weight ratio.
Right?
Because of that, it has a surprisingly slim profile, meaning it actually fits into most normal shoes without adding a bunch of bulk or forcing you to buy shoes 2 sizes too big. And most importantly, it resists breakdown far longer than traditional materials. We're talking 3 to 5 years of consistent support.
To really grasp why that lifespan matters, we have to talk about traditional materials like EVA. Yeah, EVA stands for ethylene vinyl acetate. It's the standard squishy foam used in almost all running shoes and generic retail insoles. Now, EVA feels amazing on day one,
Super soft.
super soft, but it's essentially just trapped air bubbles.
So what happens when someone with a really heavy occupational demand is wearing them? The clinic highlights solutions for culinary professionals, nurses, warehouse workers, delivery drivers. These are people standing on hard concrete for 12 hours a day.
The physics for those workers are just brutal. With every single step, your foot absorbs force equal to 1.5 to 2 times your total body weight.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're a warehouse worker taking 20,000 steps a shift, sometimes carrying heavy boxes, you are subjecting your shoes to hundreds of tons of cumulative force every single day. That standard EVA foam is simply going to crush, compress, and warp under that mass.
I see. Think of it like a bridge. Those old plastic or foam inserts are like a thick, heavy wooden bridge. It takes up a ton of space, and over time, under the relentless traffic of daily life, the wood is going to sag, warp, and eventually rot away.
That's a great way to put it.
And carbon fiber is like replacing that with a sleek, modern steel suspension bridge. It has a fraction of the bulk, it provides exponentially more structural support, and it absolutely will not compress or lose its shape under heavy pressure.
And that structural integrity is everything. A material that won't warp over time isn't just a premium luxury upgrade. For these workers, it is a strict medical necessity to maintain their skeletal alignment shift after shift.
And to make this even more accessible, DFW Custom Orthotics offers a really smart package deal. I was looking at this. For that same $375, they pair the true custom carbon fiber orthotics with a pair of therapeutic sneakers.
Which is an incredible value.
It really is. The bundle actually saves the patient $90. But beyond the savings, the sneakers themselves are engineered specifically for this. They have an extra depth design and a completely seamless interior.
That seamless interior is a highly strategic design choice, especially going back to our discussion on diabetic patients.
Because of the neuropathy, right?
Exactly. If you have a standard sneaker, there are thick seams where the fabrics are stitched together. A single poorly placed rough seam inside a shoe can rub against a numb diabetic foot all day long.
And they wouldn't even notice.
The patient won't feel the friction at all, and it creates a devastating ulcer. So by pairing the custom orthotic with a seamless therapeutic shoe, the clinician ensures the entire environment surrounding the foot is safe and protective.
Now, all of this clinical care sounds incredible, but there's an obvious elephant in the room here. What if you don't live anywhere near Dallas-Fort Worth?
Right, geography can be a huge barrier to medical care.
The materials actually outline how they've solved this geography problem with a national custom orthotic mail order program.
This is one of the most fascinating logistical solutions in the field, honestly. They've found a way to maintain clinical pedorthic precision without requiring an in-person clinic visit.
It's so smart. They send a foam impression kit directly to the patient's door, anywhere in the country.
And this isn't just like a flat piece of paper you stand on. It's a specialized, crushable medical foam. You press your feet into it at home, and it captures the true three-dimensional volumetric shape of your foot, including the arch height and the heel depth.
So you take the impression, you ship the foam box back to the clinic, and the clinicians use that exact physical mold to hand cast the carbon fiber orthotics.
Exactly. There are no retail kiosks guessing your arch height with a 2D heat map. It's the exact same hand-cast clinical process, just done remotely.
It completely democratizes access to true pedorthic care. Like, think about an adult child arranging this for an elderly parent who physically cannot travel to a specialist.
Oh, absolutely.
Or an athlete in a rural area who desperately needs that specific aerospace-grade carbon fiber strength. The clinical standard remains totally intact across state lines.
It really bridges the gap.
Well, we have covered so much ground today. So what does this all mean? We started by tearing down the illusion of the $800 retail kiosk, realizing that true custom care requires a dynamic assessment, not just a static pressure mat.
Right, moving past the marketing.
We looked at the undeniable medical relief these devices provide for severe conditions, from allowing a torn plantar fascia to finally heal to the very high-stakes world of defending diabetic feet against amputations.
Life-saving interventions, really.
Exactly. We proved that the health of your feet dictates the health of your knees, hips, and back. And finally, we saw how carbon fiber makes it possible to get maximum support without sacrificing the fit of your normal shoes.
The overarching theme of all these clinical materials is the immense value of treating your foundation with the respect it deserves. I would encourage everyone listening, the next time you take your shoes off, take a moment to really look at them. Look at the bottom of the soles.
Just to see the wear patterns.
Exactly. Are you wearing down one edge significantly faster than the other? And more importantly, take a brutally honest inventory of how you feel at the end of the day. How much of that daily exhausting fatigue in your lower back is actually originating from the floor?
That is such a crucial exercise. We are so conditioned to just accept the pain. We tell ourselves, well, I just worked a long shift, or I guess I'm just getting older.
We normalize it.
We do. But as we wrap up this deep dive into the clinical realities presented by Michael L. Ashley and DFW Custom Orthotics, I want to leave you with a lingering thought.
Let's hear it.
If our feet are our only physical contact point with the earth, absorbing the impact of our entire lives every single day, how much of what we accept as normal aging or even just mental fatigue at the end of a long day is actually just an undiagnosed, easily correctable physical strain radiating from the ground up?
It really makes you wonder how much life energy we are just losing to the floor.
It does. Take care of your foundation, everyone. We will catch you on the next deep dive.